Hello!
Konnichiwa!
And welcome to the next video in Japanese with Frog.
We apologize if you've been waiting for this video for a while. It's been a little bit crazy, we moved around a lot, but we finally settled down in Washington.
And we love where we're at, and we love our frog, and so thank you for your patience.
That's the important stuff.
Yeah.
This next video might be a lot, but it'll cover some of the most important concepts for Japanese learning.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it, it's a pretty intense lesson, so let's jump in.
Ganbarimashou! Our study of the grammar card continues, and today we'll finish it off. Make sure you're somewhat comfortable with these sections before the video. We'll go through these last couple of sections and do a bit of review of this part.
In this video, we need to learn about sentence structure, but to do that, you need to be familiar with particles. And you need to know about conjugating and forms of Japanese to make sentences too. So it's kind of this circular, cyclical torture that makes it hard to start in any specific topic without an overview of the others.
This won't be the only video on these topics, so don't feel frustrated if it doesn't totally make sense after one loop around. It'll take a few walks around the block to be familiar with these. And that was meant figuratively, but if you want to take a literal walk around the block to take a break, please do.
We'll start with basic sentence structure. English is SVO, or subject, verb, object. Subject being what the sentence is about, the verbs are the action words, and the object is what receives the action, or the target of the verb.
Like the sentence, I drink water. If you look up each word in Japanese, you get watashi is I, nomu is drink, remember this is base 3 or dictionary form, and mizu is water. Watashi nomu mizu. If you said that, people would probably understand what you mean, but it isn't in proper order for Japanese. As sentences get more complicated, you will have to get your sentence order right.
Order! Japanese is subject, object, verb, so in proper order it would sound like I water drink, watashi mizu nomu, or more completely, watashi wa mizu o nomu. Which brings us to the next point. What are these? Where did these sounds come from?
These are called particles. On your grammar card, you have a short guide to some common particles. They are typically attached to the end of nouns, and we don't really have these in English.
I like to think of them as flags, tags, or markers for words, but aren't really words themselves. Kind of like speaking your grammar. I, the subject, water, the object, drink. I think these are what make Japanese fun to learn, and they bring clarity to speech.
In this video, we will cover these particles. This will be just enough to start making basic sentences.
First up is wa. You write it with ha, but when this hiragana character is used as a particle, pronounce it wa. Some places online will tell you it means is, am, or are, but I would prefer to say it means as for ... or as for blank. It's the first subject marker, or the topic marker, and brings emphasis to the word or phrase after it. You use it for universals as well.
Let's tag some of these words to make better sense of it. Watashi wa Jojo. As for me, I'm Jojo, or I am Jojo. We are marking the word watashi to indicate it is the subject. Chikyu wa marui. As for the earth, it's round. Or in common English, the earth is round. We tag chikyu with the topic marker wa.
Next we'll look at ga. It is similar to wa. You can think of it as still meaning as for blank, but because it is also used with question words, it can loosely mean is, am, or are. It marks the second subject or a nested subject and emphasizes what comes before it.
Let's tag our sentences again to see the particles visually. Alright. Dare ga kuru? You're marking dare as what you are inquiring about. Watashi wa Jojo ga suki. As for me, I like Jojo. Anata wa kami ga shiroi. As for you, your hair is white. Or simply translated, your hair is white. Hair isn't always white, but the earth being round is pretty much universal, so we'll note the use of wa and ga here.
Now we're looking at o. This character is always a particle, and it's a really fun particle because it means there is some action in your sentence. Grammatically, this is the direct object marker, and it comes after what it is marking. Let's tag the sentences and see. Sushi o taberu. Sushi is being marked as the thing that is receiving the action eat, so we mark it with o. If you just say sushi taberu, they'll probably understand you, but you want to be clear in your sentences.
Let's look at the next one. Yakusoku o yabutta. I broke a promise. What is being broken? The promise. Watashi wa hon o kaku. As for me, book I write. Or I write a book. Jojo wa pan o yaita. As for Jojo, he baked bread.
Next particle is no. Usually you'll see it linking nouns. Noun, no, noun. No is the possessive or descriptive marker, so you can think of it as meaning things like of, apostrophe s, in, at, or from. Let's tag the sentences with the other particles. I didn't make one for no because it's more of a linking particle and less of like a spoken grammar particle. There actually are words in English that appropriate it pretty well.
私の名前はジョジョ。My name is Jojo. 駅の電話。The station's phone. Or in English, we typically just say the phone at the station. 日本語の先生。Teacher of Japanese, or just Japanese teacher. 彼の猫が好き。As for his cat, I like it. Or simply, I like his cat.
Now for ni. Ni has a lot of functions. It is a direction marker, like to mean to, a time marker, and a place of existence marker. As a direction marker, eki ni iku, station to go, or I go to the station. Haha ni tegami o kaku. Mother to letter I write. I write a letter to my mother. Watashi no ie ni kita. Someone, not indicated who, came to my house. Gakko ni kite kudasai. Please come to school. Kare ni eigo wo osieru. I teach him English. In this example, and in the writing a letter to mother example, ni is actually marking the indirect object if you want the nitty-gritty grammar, but you can still think of it as to if you don't want to worry about the technicalities.
As a time marker, 6時半に起きる. Wake up at 6:30. 月曜日に行く. Go on Monday. 12月に来た. Came in December. 2020年に終わる. End in 2020. And we all hope 2020 will end. 私は3時に行く. I will go at 3 o'clock.
And finally, as a place of existence marker. 紙に絵を描いた. I drew a picture on paper. ここに名前を書いて. Write your name here. その寺は京都にある. That temple is in Kyoto. 私は大阪にいる. I am in Osaka. アメリカに帰る. I return to America.
The grammar card also has this little key for some verbs that take particular particles for the grammar patterns. So to review, we covered these particles and we'll do more in-depth videos on all of these later. Let's go back to making the simple sentence, I drink water. We can tag the subject and object. In English, those tags are unsaid, but in Japanese you speak those tags, which is why you get watashi wa mizu o nomu. Awesome job! We made a sentence!
Not so fast. Remember the cyclical torture of learning we have to do? It's not over yet. We need to discuss forms. This section at the bottom of the second page of the grammar card has our conjugation boxes. We'll look at the lower half first. These matrices direct you on how to change any kind of word in Japanese into positive or negative, and past or present.
Remember, these are the 4 kinds of words in Japanese. If we put them on a continuum, you have verbs on one side, nouns and descriptive nouns on the other, and descriptive verbs are near true verbs.
These boxes show you how to modify your word. The PF in all of these stands for plain form, which is what we have been learning so far in the videos. We'll get to polite form in a moment. As a side note, dearu and deatta are rarely used in spoken Japanese. However, dewanai and dewanakata are fairly common.
We'll use these 4 example words for each of the 4 kinds of words. Nomu, to drink. Takai, which means high, like spatially or expensive. Kirei, which means pretty or clean. And neko, which is cat. For plain form verbs, present positive is simply base 3. So that would be nomu. Grammatically, it is what is called the infinitive. It just means to verb. Present and negative to not verb is base 1 plus nai, nomanai. Past positive is base ta, nonda, and past negative is base 1 plus nakatta, nomanakatta.
Now we will look at descriptive verbs. Much like verbs, the present positive form is dictionary form of the word. To generally say something is high in Japanese, you simply say takai, and that's how it will be found in the dictionary. The stem for these is the word minus the final i, so it would just be taka plus i, or takai. Is high. Present negative is stem, taka, and kunai. Taka kunai. Taka kunai. Not high, or tall, or expensive. Past positive is stem and katta. Taka katta. Taka katta. Was high. Past negative is stem and kunakatta. Taka kunakatta. Taka kunakatta. Was not high. For descriptive nouns and nouns, you don't directly conjugate them, you conjugate the copula or an attached word at the end of it.
For the descriptive nouns and nouns, the polite form of the copula is des, and the plain form is da. So the standard present positive is da. Kirei da. It's pretty. Kirei janai. It's not pretty. Kirei datta. It was pretty. And kirei janakatta. It was not pretty. Similarly, for the noun neko, it is neko da, is a cat. Neko janai, is not a cat. Neko datta, was a cat. And neko janakatta, was not a cat.
Now the upper half of this section. It's the same thing we just did, but for the polite form. So here are the parts of speech if you need a reference, and the spectrum of those words. These boxes are how we make plain words polite. We'll use the same example words, nomu, takai, kirei, and neko. The mas box is for verbs. Polite present positive is base 2 plus mas, nomi and mas, nomimasu, to drink. To be clear, this means the same thing as nomu, it's just polished up and polite is all. Polite present negative is base 2 plus masen, nomimasen, to not drink. Polite past positive is base 3 plus mashita, nomimashita, drank. And polite past negative is base 2 plus masen deshita, nomimasen deshita, did not drink.
Polite descriptive verbs are actually the same as plain form descriptive verbs, but you just add the unconjugatable des to them. Takai desu, takakunai desu, takakatta desu, takakunakatta desu. Descriptive nouns and nouns share a box again, the des box. Remember, you can't conjugate the words themselves, you just conjugate the des according to the box. Kirei desu, it is pretty. Kirei de wa arimasen, it is not pretty. Kirei deshita, it was pretty. And kirei de wa arimasen deshita, it was not pretty. Neko desu, it is a cat. Neko de wa arimasen, it is not a cat. Neko deshita, it was a cat. Neko de wa arimasen deshita, it was not a cat.
So now we'll address this box. We use plain form when grammar needs it. Think back to all the grammar patterns we looked at. They're typically in plain form. We use plain form when we're talking to close friends or children. To review, this section of the grammar card helps us change tense and switch to either the positive or negative for words. It also shows us how to change words from plain form to polite form. But why and when do we switch from plain form to polite form? If plain form is for close friends or children, then polite form is so we can be polite when we are talking to anyone that isn't a close friend or a child. For example, polite form is used professionally, with customers, with strangers, anyone you need to be polite to.
So how do we make the switch? Imagine this line represents a sentence. The entirety of the sentence can be in plain form, but right at the end, you must use the mas box or the des box to make the last part polite. Your entire sentence will be in plain form, but if you make the last word polite via the mas or des box, then your sentence is accepted as polite. To be clear, speaking in polite form does not mean you make every word polite. You only have to change the last word for it to be in polite form.
With that, we can go back to our simple sentence. Watashi wa mizu o nomu is a proper plain form sentence, but when we take the verb nomu, to drink, and put it through the mas box, we get Watashi wa mizu o nomimasu. What about this sentence? I am Jojo. Watashi wa Jojo. We know watashi means I, wa is just a particle attached to watashi, and Jojo is Jojo. So where's the am in Japanese? Remember, wa cannot equal am not, was, or was not because it is a particle and can't be conjugated.
The complete plain sentence is Watashi wa Jojo da. The complete polite sentence is Watashi wa Jojo desu. Da is often dropped from informal plain form speech. Including da sounds particularly emphatic. However, its derivatives, nakatta, janai, janakatta, are not left off and do not sound over-emphatic. If you are using polite form, you should always have des.
So over on the left, we can see the sentence, Watashi wa Jojo is plain form and incomplete, but it is an appropriate and viable sentence with close friends and children. Watashi wa Jojo da is plain form and complete, but because present positive is the default or assumed status, adding the da sounds somewhat emphatic or masculine. Watashi wa Jojo desu is the polite and complete form of the sentence. So here's how I like to think about it. Da acts like a verb, it can be conjugated in the des box, So if you count it as a verb, then Japanese sentences technically always end in verbs, though sometimes the da is unsaid. Those verbs will either be any verb from the language or da.
Okay, we won't go over this slide in this video because it is just for your practice. The focus of each sentence is indicated with an N, DN, V, or DV, which is for noun, descriptive noun, verb, and descriptive verb. And you have the English, the plain form, and the polite form written out. We went over these 3 sections of the grammar card, and with that, we've completed the entire grammar card. Don't expect to have it mastered by the end of this video because that's not quite the point.
The point is that you know how to use it. The grammar card is a great tool for understanding Japanese from a grammatical point of view, and using the grammar card, you can express a lot more than you would be able to if you just memorized phrases. The grammar card lets you learn Japanese by helping you say your own constructed sentences, which I think leads to faster language learning than taking phrases by rote.
Of course, we still have a lot of topics to cover and specific nuances and caveats to rules we've already laid out. Thankfully, Japanese has fewer exceptions than English.
We have a lot of learning to do. We'll keep making videos to guide your studies.
Thanks for tuning in!
Here's Paku-chan.